Okay, so we just went to the bank here in Chapalita in Guadalajara, and we experienced one of the frustrations that people who come and live in Mexico experience when they try to do things like open bank accounts or anything else related to administrative activities or government or financial institutions in Latin America. You want to tell them a little bit more?
Yeah, so you might remember that in previous video we said, these are some things that people can't handle about Mexico, especially when Americans come here. And one of those things is that sometimes when it comes to administrative things, there's a lack of efficiency. And we mentioned that we've just been procrastinating on getting a bank account opened for me. And I've been using digital wallets and just my US bank accounts because we knew it was going to be an ordeal. Like we knew it wasn't going to be a simple process. So we finally have a day where we can go do it. And we're all excited, and we got all this paperwork. We have my INE, which is the Mexican identity.
Your residence
my
card,
residence
yeah.
card. They call it an INE.
Technically, it's not an INE. An INE is for citizens to vote, but
they still call
basically,
it. They still call it an
your
INE.
ID.
Yeah, your Mexican ID, which you get when you become a resident. We had the lease agreement, a water bill. What else did we bring just in case?
Internet bill.
Internet bill. We also had witness information just in case they asked
Because they ask for that when
witnesses,
you open a cell phone.
Sometimes
plan.
they asked for witnesses, so we had our friends who were with like, here's our information. So we get there and we're like, okay, they gotta give us a fucking bank account with all this stuff because I think we've thought of everything. And then apparently since he opened a bank account, how long ago?
Last year, I think.
Last year?
Maybe I did need my passport. I don't know. But yeah, they said that she needs a physical copy of her passport, which we didn't think we needed because we already have a resident card, which is valid for everything here. I guess you need a passport
and he
too.
doesn't remember being
I don't
asked
think
for
they
one.
asked me for my passport.
Yeah, otherwise I'm pretty sure you would have told me.
Yeah.
But then, so anyway, I didn't have my physical passport on me, but we did have a copy of my passport.
And a global entry card.
And a global entry card.
Which is a passport card.
Which is essentially
Right.
a passport card to get into the United States. Get global entry, it's worth it if you haven't done it yet because you get to skip the line in customs. Which, to get a global entry card, you got to go through some serious security checks.
Ooh, that should be a video.
Oh, a global entry?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, to
That'll
get
be
global
one.
entry, you got to go through some pretty serious security checks, and you got to go do an interview with a customs agent at an airport. And we tried to explain, like, this is a federal ID. Like, this is
No, they wouldn't
just
buy
like
it.
a passport, and they wouldn't buy it. But it gets better. Say the other part of the
Oh,
story.
so I guess we came on the one day that the person in charge of opening bank accounts in this branch, and bear in
For
mind, this
foreigners,
is,
I
yeah, well,
think
no,
he
for
said.
anybody.
Oh, for anybody?
But he couldn't have opened an account, I guess, for anybody, because the one person in charge of opening accounts was on vacation, and I guess they had substituting for her somebody from another branch who doesn't have the authority to open a bank account. Which, why are you there substituting for her if you don't have the authority to do anything that person could do? It doesn't make any sense. So even if we would have had our passport and everything else.
Yeah, we could have just gone back to the house, walked back with my passport.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but even if we had done that, the person who is responsible for that paperwork.
Well, we can
and
still go to the
opening
other bank,
accounts-
the other Bancomer down the street.
No, because they're still going to ask me for the same.
Yeah,
Oh,
after we get your passport.
Oh,
But-
okay. So maybe we'll attempt doing that. Because I'm like, dang, this is why we blocked out a whole day
Yep.
just to go open a bank account in Mexico. And then we figured we would document it for you guys. Because I guess, like, they change the rules all the freaking time. And this happens in other countries, too, where they change rules, they change things, and then you don't know about it. And then you get there, and then it's like, surprise, we didn't know.
I guess I should have called them or something.
I don't know. It just is what it is. And again, when you travel full time or you're living in other countries, they do things differently than they do in the United States. So you just get used to it and you roll with the punches. This would be on the con side of Mexico that people bring up a lot. But again, the pros definitely outweigh the cons because this is just a nuisance and an annoyance, but it's not like a major thing. And we have
It annoys me a lot because I hate it when people waste my time. And I hate it when things aren't. Maybe this is part of another video we're going to do as well about the things that we dislike about living in Mexico. But whenever systems are inefficient, like whenever there's things that happen in a system that just make absolutely no sense, I'm not a fan. It's like
He's
you
also
have a
like
bank
an
account.
engineer, and this is what he does for a living. So his systems are his thing.
Recovering engineer.
Yeah,
but
efficiency is his thing. You're also like German on one side, so so it's just in his blood. So he gets more annoyed than I do. I'm Latina. I expect this stuff. I knew it was going to happen. They're more not laissez-faire. What's the word? More lax here, or
Yeah.
just
In the U.S., you go in, you open an account. I don't think they even ask you for a social security number half the time. I mean, they let everybody in the country open a bank account, whether they have an ID, a passport, nothing. They open you an account. They'll give you a credit card. You can get a car loan. It's really easy.
Yeah,
In
here,
Mexico,
that's a lot harder.
no.
It's a lot
No,
more
they don't do
challenging
that.
in Mexico. Anyway, so we're gonna go back to the house and find my passport and try another branch. And we'll see if we can get this done today.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so passport secured. We are now on our way to another branch to see if the person responsible for opening bank accounts is at work today.
Maybe he's the one that they sent to the other branch,
Maybe.
the one we were
Who
at,
knows?
so nobody can open a bank account anywhere.
Who knows? Who knows? And then now I have a concern because this is likely to happen in Mexico, where like one branch tells you, oh yeah, you can have a copy of a bill, a PDF, no big deal. And then the other branch is going to be like, no, we need the physical copy. I don't know.
Don't manifest that. No,
So-
positive thoughts.
So we're trying to make it before Mexican lunch. They eat a little later here than, ooh, that's a tope, right? They eat a little bit later here than in the U.S. So we're trying to speed and get there before everyone's out for lunch.
We're not speeding, we're going under the speed limit.
Okay, we're going under the speed limit, but we're trying to quickly get to a bank before everybody gets out of the office for lunch, because then we'll be there for like 4 hours. So if you're trying to open a bank account in Mexico, just know to expect snags.
And come before noon, otherwise you could have issues.
Yeah. And we've heard that in other countries like Thailand, for doing administrative things, you always need to have your passport on you. Mexico, not so much, but I guess now they're asking for passports for certain things, so that's just a thing to keep in mind. Anyway, we'll keep you guys posted because we are determined to get this done today.
So the saga continues. We just went to a different Bancomer branch, and we're told now that we need a paper called an RFC. Whether we're at the old branch that we went to initially or at this new one, we have to have an RFC, which is basically like a Mexican tax ID paper, which I guess I had gotten at one point. Didn't even realize that I needed that to open a bank account, because I thought that I'd opened it before without that. Maybe I had, maybe I hadn't. I don't know. This was 2 years ago. But apparently Amanda needs to go through a process at the SAT, which is like the Mexican IRS, to get a special paper and register her digital signature. In order to do that, we have to go to our attorney, who then needs to schedule an appointment that hopefully we'll get within the next month. And then she needs to spend about half a day there at the Mexican IRS office in order for her to get this paperwork set up so that we can properly open a bank account or do anything else regarding taxes or financial stuff or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, this is the stuff that when you live in emerging countries, you're going to save a lot of money in terms of living expenses, but you're going to pay in a lot of time when it
That
comes to
is for sure,
administrative things. And the explanation that she was a wonderful young lady who was helping us at the bank was very interesting, because she was saying, okay, so if we have a customer who's Mexican born, then they have two last names, which is common here in Mexico for people to have two last names. And then because they have two last names, it's very difficult for someone with that exact name to be born on that exact date. So we can just take the exact number from their identification card and there's no problem. But since you are a foreigner and you only have one last name, then they have to give you a different kind of number.
Yeah.
Mostly because maybe there's someone out there named Amanda Abella, which I don't know. They took my name on TikTok a few years ago. I don't know. Maybe there's other ones of me out there. Born on the exact same day, and then that could cause an identification issue. And I always wondered why Mexico did the two last name thing. I guess
I
that
think
kind of,
that's tradition though.
Yeah.
But
No,
also
it's
the
definitely
names are more
tradition.
common, so they're like Maria Jose or Maria Alejandra, and then Gonzalez Fernandez or something like that. Like they'll have, two names where the combination of the names is more unique, because otherwise, how many Maria Gonzalez's are there probably likely to be here?
So,
Millions, right?
so it's an identification
Yeah.
issue more than anything. And so we reached out to the attorney, and now we're on a waiting list, and we'll see when on earth we're able to get that appointment. In the meantime, digital wallets it is, and we decided, well, I guess it would be good. Why would they want a Mexican bank? Like, why would they go through all of this to get a Mexican
well,
bank account?
typically,
Because I'm this close to giving up, y'all.
yeah, so we needed to pay rent because our landlady doesn't like receiving transfers, so we have to give her like a special kind of ATM withdrawal code every time so she can get the money as cash. So that's one thing. People here aren't really crazy about paying taxes, so ironically we have to go through all this stuff to get proper tax IDs and everything just to be able to have a bank account. But for certain things like paying local bills, you're going to need one. Some people can access like digital wallets. Others have issues getting signed up for them for some reason. So a digital wallet is definitely an alternative, but really you're best off as soon as you get your temporary or permanent residence here, actually making sure that your attorney or whoever is helping you with the paperwork, or yourself if you feel really adventurous, also requests an appointment at the SAT, which is the Mexican Tax Authority. And you want to request an appointment to get registered in the system, the SAT. And then ideally while you're there, also get your e-firma, which is your digital signature, set up. And that'll allow you to do most other trámites or transactions, with them online, because it's like a digital signature where they go and they'll verify your fingerprints and your ID and everything else, and they'll give you basically a file on a USB drive. You got to bring the drive. They're not going to give you one, but you bring like a little drive there, and they give you, it's kind of like a two-factor authentication token essentially for your registration with the tax authorities. So you'll get set up in the system, and then they'll give you that.
And sometimes, and this is important to note because we've interviewed other expats in other countries who've also run into issues opening bank accounts in other countries as an American. And you were talking about that while we were going through all this, that they're like, yeah, they probably have to go through this ridiculous amount of paperwork because you're from the United States, and then the United States puts all this regulation on them. So can you speak to that a little bit? Because I had a friend who we were interviewed to go live on the channel, and she's in France, and she's a resident of France, but because she was a U.S. citizen, they almost wouldn't give her a bank account.
Yeah, so the U.S. likes to, shall we say, dip its toes in other people's water a lot. Not to get political here, but that's basically how the U.S. in big part was able to create such financial dominance and financial, I guess, capacity in the world by regulating other countries that frankly they have no business or no authority to regulate, but they'll impose sanctions on countries, and they'll basically say, you know what, you need to verify that everybody who you have at your bank that's a U.S. citizen, you need to send us all of their information, and if they've got an account above a certain amount, you need to send us that.
You have to report it.
Exactly.
You have to do all this paperwork. You have to report all this stuff. You have to do all this stuff. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yep.
That as a U.S. citizen, and there's a whole lot of paperwork.
Well, for the
involved.
banks too. So the banks have a bunch of paperwork regarding U.S. citizens, and that's one of the reasons. Now, Mexico just has a lot of bureaucracy, period. So I think most people would have to go through this regardless. But I know that before you could open an account just as a tourist. Now, I think probably in part because of the U.S. regulatory mess, you have to actually have your temporary resident card to open any type of bank account within Mexico and be a resident here, be a legal resident of Mexico, not just a tourist. But in terms of all that financial regulation, so it's a good part to probably mention. Like Amanda said, if you are a U.S. citizen, if you have any bank accounts above a certain amount, and this can change. So my understanding is it's generally around $10,000 US in total. Don't quote me on this. This is not tax or legal advice. But usually around $10,000 or so total between all of the foreign bank accounts that you have as a U.S. citizen. If you've got more than that across all of the accounts, then you have to file a special report. I think it's what is it, an F bar or something like that, an F bar to comply with the FATCA regulation or some nonsense like that. But you have to tell the U.S. government where all of your money is,
And the bank,
wherever
the
you are.
foreign bank, also needs to tell the U.S. government
About all accounts.
about all your accounts, all your stuff, all
Yep.
your business, all because that our the expat in France that we interviewed. That's why they almost didn't give her an account, because they told her, well, if you have this much, and they did tell her $10,000, then we have to do all this. Like the bank has to do all this reporting to the United States, and I guess France
And under
just-
that amount, it's probably not even worth it for them to go through the paperwork that they
right.
need to
and I
have them
guess
as a
from
customer.
what she explained to me, she goes, France just thinks that's bullshit. Like, what jurisdiction does the United States have to do that to a French bank? But I mean, we could have a whole conversation on how all these restrictions and sanctions and things have started backfiring on the United States, but that would be a video for a whole other time. We'd be here forever trying to break
Yep.
that down for everybody.
So in summary, for today, our bank adventure has been
Foiled for now.
foiled, yeah, for now. But I guess now, well, at least now we know what you need to do to get all of your tax stuff set up, which you probably would need to do at some point anyway. So I guess that's the silver lining, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and if we want to do business here, which we've been having a lot of discussions about that, people have been asking us to do consulting here for businesses here, then we would need all that stuff set up anyway.
Pretty
So,
much. Yep.
I mean, I guess silver lining always, right?
Exactly. So stay tuned. We'll be updating you guys shortly.
Make
on
sure to
the-
subscribe
on the
so you know
process.
what happens with the saga. And
Yep.
if you listen to this and you're still interested in moving to Mexico, download our Moving to Mexico guide below, because we promise you that the pros outweigh the cons. This is just one of those things you have to deal with
Yep.
when you're in emerging countries. Some of it is a lot of bureaucratic red tape you're just going to have to pay in time. Others of it has to do with regulations in the US and other countries. It just is what it is. They're just going to see me eating a lot of paletas. All these videos.
We just got some paletas here too at the La Michoacana ice cream place.
This one was a deal, because
Was it?
together it was just 60 pesos. How much is that?
Got $3.
Ah, okay, so that's about the same as other places. Never mind.
Actually, hers is a paleta. Mine is a cone of ice cream.
And as per usual, I have my mango chamoy. So in another video, I showed you mango chamoy, but you couldn't see any of the chamoy on it, which is more of a chile. I said pepper last time, but really they call it un chile. So if you go to the paleta place and you order mango con chile, or mango con chamoy, this is what it typically looks like, is you can actually see the pepper on the outside, or the chile on the outside. It's probably one of my favorite things to snack on in all of this.